We pass those. We also have our members of the Budget and Finance Committee here in the room. We have a quorum at this time. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 1:13 p.m. And we are currently wonderful. Thank you all for joining us here today. We are going to start with our roll call. Ms. Nelson, can you do today's roll call?
Madam Chair, roll call for the Budget and Finance Committee of the Nomination Council Oversight Budget Meetings. Marta Oversight. Thank you. Marta Oversight. Honorable Norman Invigate. Thank you. Honorable Norman Invigate is present. Honorable Seth Davis.
What is it?
Honorable Seth Davis.
I'm here.
Thank you. Honorable Seth Davis is present. Honorable Amber Bobby. Honorable not to be here.
I'm here.
Thank you, Honorable County President, Honorable Paul Slater. Thank you, Honorable Paul Slater is present. Madam Chair, we have 5 members present, Honorable Paul, one member, not being made. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for taking today's roll call. Members of the Budget and Finance Committee, would anybody like to volunteer for the invocation today? If not, then say a short prayer for us today. Dearly Father, we thank you for another day to serve the Navajo Nation and the Navajo people. Today we pray for the President of the Navajo Nation, the Vice President, also our Chief Justice, the Speaker of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, and each of the members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Today, we just ask for guidance and wisdom as we deliberate the budget of the Navajo Nation. I pray for each of the chairs, the vice chairs, and of course, all of the members who are hearing their oversight budgets today. I pray for the division directors, also the staff across the Navajo Nation as they prepare to discuss the needs of our people and how we can best use the money that has been provided to serve the people. And today, I just pray for wisdom again and just guidance and peace amongst the conversations that we have, because this can be a very stressful time. And I just pray for guidance and also our families as they receive this when we go home. I pray for safe travels for each and every one of our people, and also for the members of the council today as they do their duties here in Winter Rock and as they return home. So I just pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. We are going to move on to item 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. Today we have Controller Mr. Sean McLeod in our presence. We also have our Eastern Land Board Executive Director. I'm looking right at him because he has an intense gaze. And then we have
Not intense games or chair.
looking at it, gazing at budget and finance today. He is also a former member of the Navajo Nation Council. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, I thought you were the suited an old seat right there.
I in his chair.
He used to be Tom Shee right here, myself right here, and Tom Shee. Tom Shee right here, Leonard Sophie right here. And you had to put them in their corners.
Good to be here. Thank you for coming to Budget and Finance today. Do we have any other guests we'd like to recognize before we begin? Here none, we're going to move on to number 3, review and adopt today's agenda. It's not that, can you read today's proposed agenda?
Today's agenda is the proposed agenda of the Budget and Finance Committee of the Navajo Nation Council. August 8th, 2023 at 1 o'clock, August 9th, 2023 at 9 a.m. August 10th, 2023, 9 a.m. Oversight budget meetings. Presiding is Harris, Chairperson Carl Slater, Vice Chairperson, Budget and Finance Committee, in the Rock County. One probably order the roll call. For the meeting procedures, presenter is Laura Society Esquire, Office of the City Council. 5 make this list A, that's 160163 -22B, that's 017. Nothing now, so there's 011. And then, these are the things that are one of the 3-23, 4-23, average 188 23, legislation 01923, 603 visits, and then 7 closing the second written notice of the community. The next meeting is August 22nd, 2023 at 9 a.m. Also, August 11th, 2023 at 9 a.m. So, as you're looking at your, you need to add legislation number 0182-43, and then also change the name of the tax commission director is Effie City. Effie City is for the
City for the tax commission. Thank you, Ms. Naka, for this proposed agenda into the record. Colleague, Ms. Naka has also recommended, an amendment, language to be changed on the agenda. Colleagues, I'm going to ask if anybody would like to motion to adopt the agenda. Vice Chair Slater, motion, do you have a second? Delegate Begay, second the motion. Colleagues, at this time, would anybody like to make any amendments to today's agenda?
Chair, is there a, I think there's a legislation that needs to be added on, legislation 182-23. I'd like a motion to add that one.
Speaker doing motion to add legislation 182 to the speaker giving motion to add that to 8 under new business. 8 under new business will be legislation 182-23. Thank you. Speaker Damon, second. Sorry, motion party. Oh, wait, that's your motion. Does anybody, would anybody like to make a motion? Okay, so then delegate first, that's party, second, the motion. Which oversight?
Okay, it's under tab. 013-23, action relating to the budget finance committee approving and recommending the fiscal year 2024 budget for the national retirement trust. The department of retirement services for retirement plans and related matters to be included in the navigation's fiscal year 2024 comprehensive budget. And I would recommend that maybe that could be item D. G is the last item of the agenda. 193 will go live until the 9.
Well, okay, this one is not there. No, this is the last legislation is not ready till Thursday for the recommendation. So the end to right before 182. We can add it to the agenda. It is. Also, it's ready till Thursday. This last one, no, 182 is ready now. Yeah, but I'm talking about the last one. You can't add an agenda to, you can't add a legislation into the agenda that's not ready. We have to take it off and then put it back on when it's ready.
That's the state of council and digest and legislation is.
I'm going to modify my motion at the site to remove legislation 0193-23 off the agenda.
Okay. The motioning party has modified his motion to omit legislation 193-23, but to keep the legislation 122-23 on the agenda, which is ready.
You have to ask them, you ask them.
Yes, second part, concurs with the modification. Do we have any questions on the amendment? What's your legislation number?
0184 -230.
So
It's only 0182 that, sorry. It's a,
okay, thank you.
it's related to the National Retirement Office. Operation.
I wanted to ask for a modification that's, would be preparing us for our next, meeting, if I may order. We do have beyond the budget, there's some issues that arise with Rhino King. And there's a legislation, so I'd like to add onto the agenda if we could, request reports from those entities to our next meeting.
Okay.
So it's just giving them enough notice would be for Rhino Care. And I'd also like to ask if, our financial team can review the Goldings, just to make sure their financial, information is correct. But I don't know when we're gonna plan our next meeting, but if you could add it onto the agenda so they're ready for the next meeting.
And then thank you for raising that. Our next budget finance meeting is Friday, August 11th. And then following that meeting, we also have August 22nd, 2023. I know the Rhino Health issue is pertinent, because it's a current issue right now. I'm going to ask Shannon, do you also feel that Rhino can be at Friday's meeting?
Yes, I'd like to request it for Friday's meeting.
Okay. And then we'll also, we'll add that, reviewing the.
And Goldings,
We'll leave the other. Okay.
well, for Rhino, we'll need that sales and legislation number. I think that's what we could get the report on.
Okay.
There's two of them.
It's a new legislation.
No, the old legislation, but there's money that was allocated. And now that the company has vacancy, what's the status of that money?
$1 million legislation.
Okay.
So we'll just get more updated on Friday.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Senate Delegate Amber Professor Friday, is that? I believe Senate Delegate Amber Professor Friday, to modify the motion.
Oh, you agree with that?
Yeah, Friday on the report, we get additional information from the Division of Economic Development. It will be included on that report.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes, and then setting. It's not by the modification that was made was to add Rhino Care report on the CNC legislation. Update the planning, expectations of policy, and then also from the Division of Economic Development on where the status is on the CSA for Rhino Care. And the second one was financial analysis on the information as well, and for the budget and you're gonna ask the Division of Economic Development. And
We'll figure out. Yeah, we did this. Yeah.
Also,
Okay. All right, members of the Budget and Finance Committee, do we have, I'm gonna do a second call for questions on the modification of the motion for amendment 1. Second call. Third call. And hear none, Ms. Johnson, can you take today's roll call vote on amendment 1?
Yes, Madam Chair, will call on amendment number 1. Water, that's right, how do you vote? Empty water, right, vote. Honorable Norman Gay, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Honorable Norman Gay, will screening, Honorable Sethany, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Honorable Sethany, will screening, Honorable Paul Slater, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Honorable Paul Slater, will screening, Honorable Anderson, how do you vote?
Sunday will agree.
Honorable Anderson, will screening. Madam Chair, we have my members voting in favor of the inclusion, and then voting in favor.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, and with that, colleagues, we have omitted at this time legislation. Legislation 9323, and we have added legislation 18223, and we've also made the request to add 2 items to Friday, August 11th, 2022 budget and finance agenda. We're going to go back to the main motion with amendment 1. Colleagues, do we have any questions on, actually, or do you have any questions?
On the main motion.
On the main motion?
I have amendment number 2.
Speaker David?
Amendment number 2 is because we're hearing from the oversights and the budget and finance committee is going to hear from them again when it comes into the budget. There's a couple legislation done here that I think that we already have handled. So I'd like a consent agenda item for 0163-23, 0184-23, 0182-23, and 0188-23. That's my motion. Or did you put it here? 0163-23, which is the new procedures. 018-23, which is the timer office and the committee. 0184-23, which is the tax commission, and 0188-23, which is quick costs, which we already went through.
Thank you, Speaker David. We have a motion for consent agenda for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legislations. Colleagues.
You want to just add it for time?
0184. 01.
I'm not second.
We have a motion on the floor to give a second to the motion. Delegate Astor seconds the motion for consent agenda for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 legislation. 5 legislation, we have a second. Colleagues, we have any questions on amendment 2? Senate Delegate Anderson, Democratic.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Because even we haven't added 0182-23 to the agenda yet. If you can remove that off of consent, and then we can move forward with the other items.
It's added.
We haven't added to the agenda, we haven't voted on our agenda.
For clarification, we have voted on amendment 1, but we have not approved the agenda for amendment 1 yet. At this- okay. the motion party has modified the motion to omit, 18223. And the second party. Vice Chair Slater?
Thank you. I know that at number 302 committee meetings, which operate in the same in committee rules of order, we have added legislation to the agenda via amendment, and then added it to the consent agenda before the final passage of it. I'm ambivalent, but I just want to say as a matter of precedent that definitely has been done before via amendment.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Slater. At this time, the motion party has modified this motion to omit legislation 18223. Thank you, Vice Chair, for making that clarification. So we're gonna go back to any other comments or questions on amendment 2. Roll call.
Yeah. We said constant bad and
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'll request to modify to add the remaining items.
Vice Chair Slater has.
Minus 182, right?
Okay, Vice Chair Slater asks for a modification to the motion for amendment 2 to add all legislation except 18223.
the request is, I'll acknowledge and, or modify, accept the modification.
Doug, the motion party and the seconding party all concur to the motion. Before we turn it over to the committee members for further discussion, I'm gonna turn the time over to Mr. Coffey, who is our legal counsel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to clarify, 0183 for the controller. Office of Legislative Counsel received revised exhibits. So the 183, we just got those today, so 183 cannot be on the consent agenda. It needs
Oversight.
Discuss that or add that to that legislation. That would be an amendment because the div posted exhibit E may be different and may have nothing on there or it may be different. The other option would be to leave the legislation on the consent agenda, but at the time that the comprehensive budget legislation is being formulated, the first stop for that comprehensive budget legislation is Budget and Finance Committee. So this committee, because it serves both as an oversight committee for certain programs, and it's also the first stop for the comprehensive budget legislation. There is a little bit of time there, some flexibility there to deal with the unmet needs issues at that time. That may give the program some time to come up with some, or the delegates could contact the programs and see. That's the next separate option. If the committee wishes to do I'm part of the consent agenda today, if that's what the committee said on doing today, then the unmet needs would have to be revisited at that second.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey, for providing the option to the committee. Members of the Budget and Finance Committee, today we have a motion on the floor for a consent agenda at this time because there's a motion on the floor. And from the advisement of Mr. Coffey, there are two ways the committee can proceed with our budget oversight hearings or our special meeting. Is to consider the consent agenda, or if the committee members do have questions on the unmet needs and request further information. The options was given to Mr. Coffey about consideration of the consent agenda, but also the second time that we're going to see these lines to the budget when the entire comprehensive budget is being considered. So at the time, Mr. Coffey has provided those options to the committee and Senate Delegate Amber Friday. We're not able to hear from the departments in the middle of the motion. Chetta, do you have any follow-up questions before we consider a vote for amendment two? I'm fine with it. Okay.
In terms of unmet needs, the delegate probably brought up, it's really important. Can we issue the directive after we have voted on the legislation to have the programs and respective branch chiefs comprehensive unmet needs list for these and for all programs? I mean, we don't know what's happening in the other committees, but and that would be available for review. Within the comprehensive budget.
Vice Chair Litter,
Or do you guys want to do this a different way? Do you think a director's good, or how do you? Or is the president going to set it up?
If he gets upset, I'm fine whenever the people get the service, I think they need. I think that's what you should be more worried about.
It's a reference to a previous part in the three branch streets.
Oh, maybe I missed that.
Yeah.
I'm not coming with that vibe today at all.
Speaker David?
I just like to, as a motion party, respond to Madam Chair. Party's, question, I guess, a question is concerned, about unmet needs. The only one that is unmet need, I think that's attached to the tax commission. For 01-4-3, and that's attached there, but I don't think any other one that is. If there's an unmet need for any other legislation that's here before, on the record.
Thank you, Speaker David, for,
Controllers are part of that.
not the consent agenda. So from the legislation that's being proposed for the, consent agenda, the only, legislation that was identified is the legislation in regards to the tax commissions. Thank you, Speaker David, for adding to me, to answering the question that was posed. So at this time, if the committee would like to, again, has any other additional questions on amendment 2, please, welcome to. Second option.
Yeah.
No changes. Third of all. If you're done, there's nothing, can we do a roll call vote on amendment 2?
Yes, so Madam Chair, we'll call on amendment number 2, Laura Esser, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Laura Esser, votes green, Arnold Norman Begay, how do you vote? Thank you, Arnold Norman Begay, votes green, Arnold Seth Damon, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Arnold Seth Damon, votes green, Arnold Cross Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Arnold Cross Slater, votes green, Arnold Everton Gasconi, how do you vote?
I'm sorry, I vote red.
Thank you, Arnold Everton Gasconi, votes red, Madam Chair, my 4 members voting to be funded. One opposing, Madam Chair, not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for taking today's roll call vote. With that, colleagues, amendment 2 passes. We are back at the main motion of adopting today's agenda. Colleagues, do we have any other questions or comments in regards to the main motion, which is the adoption of the agenda? Second call. Third call. Before we go to the vote, let's have I just read the amendment and second reading.
This is a reading. It is the first one to add the legislation 0-2-3, but it was modified and it is to remove that from both under, right? So it is.
It is to add.
First amendment, we added 182, 23.
Right, then she wanted to modify.
For the consent agenda.
The first one said it should be okay, then to add a report on the driver repair. And it's moving on August 11th, 2023. And also a report on the movie purchase with the financial analysis by the investment executive of the credit village office. Also a report from the Division of Economic Development included with that. And then a report on the land acquisition covered on an update report on that. Then amendment 2 is a consent for creation of a consent agenda. And the consent agenda will consider the legislation number 013-23, legislation number 017-23, legislation number 018-23, legislation number 0184-23. And legislation number 018. So.
Thank you, Ms. Bagley. With that, we're going to the finance committee to executive these agenda. And I'm going to, if we could have a printout of the new agenda prepared for us. Thank you, Ms. Nelson. So we do a roll call vote on today's agenda with amendment 1 and 2. Sorry, before we go to a vote, Ms. Melvin, Ms. Dunphy, and Vice President had a question for clarification.
September. And then
Did you have
have a
to
very
read the book?
important one in person back up.
That was the first or. I think right.
Okay, that's right. Delete 0193 from the agenda.
15th.
Was part of Amendment 1.
Then September,
Thank you.
October
Thank you, Ms.
13th is,
Dunphy.
It can't be acted on.
And with that, we're going to go to a roll call vote. Ms. Nelson? Okay,
Want to check.
we're voting on the agenda with amendment 1 and amendment 2.
Voting on the main minute.
Oh,
Main motion.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Ms. Nelson. It's not necessarily on.
Water expert, how do you vote? Thank you, Water expert, Green, Honorable Moment Enrique, how do you vote? Thank you, Honorable Moment Enrique, Green, Honorable David, how do you vote? Honorable David, how do you vote? Thank you, Honorable David votes green, Honorable Councilor, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Honorable Councilor votes green. Honorable Adam, how do you vote? Honorable Adam, how do you vote? Okay, thank you. Honorable Adam, votes green. I don't care, we have 5, everyone voting in front of the voting. I don't care, not voting, I don't care.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, and thank you to the committee for taking action on this week. Information, Budget and Finance Committee and Oversight special meeting. And the request has been made to update the agenda as we proceed, and we're gonna go through the meeting. Can we take a colleagues, is there any opposition to a 5-minute break while staff prepares the new agenda? 10 minutes? We're gonna take a.
Motion to adjourn.
Take a 10-minute break.
I'm saying, yeah, it's a great question.
We're gonna reset that.
All right. And it's.
Thank you. Thank you to our interim controller for bringing us back online. Thank you again, everybody, for your patience and cooperation. We do have the new agenda before us, and I'm going to call the meeting back to order at 2:17. And we are back. The Budget and Finance Committee is back in session and committee order. And we're going to go to item number 4. Which is review the budget meeting procedures. However, the budget meeting procedures is a legislation that the committee is considering today. So I'm going to turn this time over to Ms. Tapahi.
Yeah.
For the presentation.
Does she have
Thank you,
experience?
Madam Chair. I
Experience
wanted to
working?
pass out this exhibit 2, which is in the legislation under tab number 2, legislation 0163. I realize that's under the consent agenda, but if that legislation is approved, then the committee.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
committee would be going by these new procedures under here, so I just want everybody to take a look at them.
Oh.
These are uniform, regular, procedures that Office of Legislative Counsel is recommending for all the oversight committee budget meetings for all the committees. I believe one or more have adopted these at this point. If anyone has any questions, I can go over each one of them, or if anyone has any questions, I can briefly talk about them, or it's up to the committee how you want me to proceed, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Tapahi. I believe the rules are being passed out to the committee. Ms. Tapahi has presented the Oversight Committee Special Budget Meeting Procedures for the fiscal year 2024 program budgets. With the committee, does the committee have any questions on the exhibit 2, or would like to hear a further presentation from Ms. Tapahi at this time?
Can I ask a question on the agenda?
Should it delegate and or let's does any of the committee members have any questions on the rules right now before we go to the back to the agenda?
Wait, let me read. I guess let me ask a question. Do we need quorum for budget meetings?
Yes.
Just show me where that's at.
Thank you, Shada. Can it turn to Ms. Tapahi about the question for this guy, Shada Delegate Amber Connect Friday regarding quorum?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you look on page 2, paragraph 14, in these new procedures, a quorum is required for each vote. For amendments, for voting on legislations, for everything. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Tapahi. Shada Delegate Amber Connect Friday.
Yes, thank you. So, thank you for that. I just want to ask, so does quorum, if we're in person, does quorum mean that we have to keep quorum in the room while the legislation is being heard? Or is quorum being defined as when we call for the vote and there's quorum to take the vote? Thank you, Shadija.
Yeah, Shada, I'm gonna turn the time back over to Ms. Tapahi to answer the question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In line with recent advice provided by the Office of Legislative Counsel regarding virtual Zoom meetings and such, and requirement for in-person meetings, I'm going to advise Legislative Counsel will advise that the in-person at the meeting should be the case. That would be required for the meeting to go on. If a quorum is not there, then the meeting should not continue. The meeting would have to stop as before COVID and before the Zoom meeting occurred. So again, our advice and legal recommendation is to continue to maintain a quorum at all stages of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tapahi. Shada Delegate Amber Connect Friday.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. So the next question is on page 1 of 2, number 6. So OMB shall be here either virtually or in person. Can we add? Do we have the authority or do we have the position to add that they also posted on the website? I think in fiscal year 21, they posted on the website, so we had access to all of the OMB reports for the comprehensive budget. Should they just?
Thank you, Shedda Delegate Amber for Friday. The budget procedures legislation is on the consent agenda at this time. If any amendments would be considered, however, the committee can also make a directive to the Office of Management and Budget to provide the documentation on the website as well.
A directive or an ask is nice, that's one.
Okay, Shedda, do you have any other questions?
No, but this one.
Committee members, do we have any further questions on the procedures for the fiscal year 2024 budget? Second call. Okay, could we entertain a motion for the presentation on the budget meeting procedures?
Wait, did you do the motion second?
Before, so Mr. Polly gave the presentation, but before the presentation concluded, and then she had a question.
We need a motion second to accept it.
Right,
So,
so we're now taking the motion.
okay, I'll motion to accept the report.
Vice Chair Slater, motions to accept the report. Do we have a second? Shedda Delegate Amber Cardi seconds the motion to accept today's report on the review of budget meeting procedures by Mr. Poppy. Before we take a roll call vote, do you have any last questions? Second call. Third call. If you're none, please Nelson, can we do a roll call vote to accept today's report?
Yes, I'm Madam Chair, roll call vote on the consideration of the report of reading procedures. Mark Estimate, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Mark Estimate on the screen. Honorable Norman and Brigade, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Norman and Brigade on the screen. Honorable Amber Cardi, how do you vote?
Should I vote green? Thank you.
Thank you, Shade Honorable Amber Cardi, on the screen. Honorable Seth Damon, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you, Honorable Seth Damon on the screen. Honorable Von Slater, how do you vote?
Green.
Thank you, Honorable Paul Fraser, green. Madam Chair, I have a voting in the term of the opposing. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson. Thank you to the members for taking action, and thank you, Mr. Potty, for the report today. We're going to go on to we're going to go to item 5, new business, item A, which is the consent agenda. Ms. Naukai, can you read the consent agenda for the consideration of the Budget and Finance Committee into record?
Okay.
I think you should read the title.
So 7A is a consent agenda. And this includes legislation number 0163-23 and action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee rescinding resolution number BFS 5205 and adopting new procedures for fiscal year 2024 budget meetings. Sponsors are Shandine Parrish and Carl Slater, council delegates. Legislation number 0179-23 and action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee approving and recommending to the fiscal year 2024 budget for the Office of the Auditor General and related matters to be included in the Navajo Nation's fiscal year 2024 comprehensive budget. Sponsors are Shandine Parrish and Danny Sensen, council delegates. Legislation number 0181-23 and action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee approving and recommending a fiscal year budget for the Insurance Services Department and other programs and related matters to be included in the Navajo Nation's fiscal year 2024 comprehensive budgets. Sponsors are Shandine Parrish and Danny Simpson, council delegates. Legislation number 0184-23, an action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee approving and recommending to the Budget and Finance Committee the fiscal year 2024 budget for the Navigation Office of the Navigation Tax Commission and related matters to be included in the Navigation's FY 2024 comprehensive budget. Sponsors are Sean Dean Parrish and Dan Simpson, council delegates. Legislation number 0188-23, an action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee approving the and recommending the fixed cost allocations for fiscal year 2024 for certain navigation programs. Sponsor Sean Dean Parrish and Casey Allen Johnson, council delegates. That's the reading for the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Nakai. And for the record, committee members, the question was posed about Exhibit E, unmet needs, and that question was posed by Shetta Doug and Workinas Karate earlier when we were considering the consent agenda. So I just wanted Ms. DePapi to explain to the committee members the option to mitigate the unmet needs before the committee takes action on the consent agenda. Ms. DePapi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To further understand and to better explain, I'm taking a look at how things were done at last year's budget legislation, comprehensive budget legislation. So at this preliminary stage, the programs have the prerogative to insert in Exhibit E certain unmet needs that they have, that there's not necessarily a line item, a budget source to pay for those unmet needs. So for example, if you take a look at tab 6 in the binder that you have for the Office of the Naval Tax Commission, there are 4 line items indicating that they do have unmet needs, and it's about $400,000 total at the bottom. So in last year's comprehensive budget legislation, what happened was the Budget and Finance Committee, the Oversight Committees and Budget and Finance Committee at this particular stage is acting as an oversight committee for its programs. So the unmet needs are thrown out there and the programs are saying, this is an unmet need and we need it paid for, but we haven't identified a source of funds for that. So when Budget and Finance Committee becomes the first committee to review the comprehensive budget legislation, Budget and Finance Committee then has a chance to review the unmet needs. And if you take a look at the budget calendar, there's almost a 6 or 7 day process there that's allocated for Budget and Finance Committee to go over all of the program budgets and everything in preparation of dropping the comprehensive budget legislation. So there's quite a process there to compile all the budgets together to actually put together the giant comprehensive budget legislation. So last year, what happened was the unmet needs, it appears, and I'm remembering as well, that the personnel lapse fund was used to pay quite a bit of the unmet needs. And I'm taking a look at Exhibit E, and Exhibit F. There was also some permanent fund money that was used. The excess amount of the permanent fund money was also used. So it paid for different things: general wage adjustment, veterans shortfall. If you remember, there was a different calculation that resulted in something like $13 million, I think, that the Veterans Administration was not getting. So there were certain unmet needs, certain shortfalls. And so a source of funds was identified to cover those unmet needs. And so that's what's necessary. That's what has to happen in the comprehensive budget legislation. The comprehensive budget legislation should identify the unmet needs and should identify the source of funding to cover those, so that the council then sees it and then can say, okay, we're in agreement with how you're proposing to cover these unmet needs. So that's what happened, and that's how the exhibits were prepared last year. there's not an unmet needs exhibit per se. Named unmet needs in the legislation for last year. It's listing the line items and then covering those shortfalls with a source of funding is how it's done. But that's how the unmet needs are met. If there's enough money to meet them all. And that's the policy decision that the council ultimately makes when it approves, some unmet needs, but does not approve others in its discretion. So I hope that explains and makes it clear how this is handled.
Thank you, Mr. Pahi, for stating that for the record. In regards to the question about exhibit and the oversight of the Budget and Finance Committee. And at this time, colleagues, we're considering item 5A consent agenda with 5 legislation as part of the consent agenda.
I have a question on the consent agenda.
Okay, before we take questions, do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion.
Vice Chair Slater motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Speaker Damon seconds the motion. At this time, I'll take questions. Shadow Delegate Anderson has a project.
Thank you. I just need the OMB reports that correlate with the budgets that are on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Shadow Delegate Anderson for studying. Is there a time frame on your request?
Right now.
Okay. We have the Office of Management and Budget with us, Mr. Bial. Mr. Bial, do you have that information with you today?
Madam Chair, committee members, I have some of them. I have namely Auditor General, Tax Commission, and fixed costs.
Okay, so we have on the consent agenda, we would also need the Insurance Services Department. That's the last one, Mr. Bial, the Insurance Service Department. Mr. Bial, how long will it take the Office of Management and Budget to send over the report to the committee?
Madam Chair, committee members, I would say tomorrow for sure. And there's a chance it's even available now. You see, as the committee I know has heard me say many times, we're only partially staffed. So all of our staff are everywhere today at the other committee meetings as well, SC and RDC. So that's why I'm filling in with you all being up to me. So if we can provide it very soon. Committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Bial. At this time, Mr. Bial, can you make copies for the committee or email the documents to the committee with what you have today?
I have them right.
Okay, Ms. Nakai has already emailed it out to the committee. Thank you, Mr. Bial, for providing the documentation. The only report we don't have is for the Insurance Services Department. As Mr. Bial has stated that we could have it as soon as possible. But should the delegate ever never Friday, we did make the request before the vote. However, because the partial of the documentation has been provided, do you have any further questions or comments at this time?
I just wanna, I understand the intent of the consent agenda was initially pulled together to try to expedite the process. But I also have concerns that these legislations as like oversight, we should hear from the programs at the minimum of 10 minutes and have a clear idea of how we're setting the tone for the next fiscal year. So I don't support the consent agenda, but I think I'm just one vote of the committee. And so those were my concerns, like OMB reports. Those are historically things we would hear to understand how the program is moving forward with their different measures and accomplishments. If there was any audit findings in the past, and OMB reports also provide additional information. But I just wanted to state that for the record, and I look forward to the OMB report for insurance. Thank you, Shadisha.
Thank you, Delegate Amber Canez Friday. Members of the Budget and Finance Committee, do we have further questions or comments on the consent agenda? Delegate,
I got a question on.
yeah,
Mr. Brielle, do you have copies of the indirect costs from 2023 on those? I'm ready to change that. Yeah, comments with that.
thank you, Delegate. We're getting the hard copy passed out. And then Mr. Vidal, when you can identify that. That's a great. Yeah.
It's actually these lines, but now we're looking at.
That's small. It's on an outside. It's going to about 30, because I don't know what this is. I don't know what
Yeah.
but then I get like that big change over.
Yeah.
This 14 million.
Delegate, as it year 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also, we got exempt from.
So there's
Mr. Vidal.
Madam Chair, committee members, in response to the delegate asked for
Putting looking at that.
the report that we provide is a standard normal report that we've been doing for a number of years. However, unfortunately, it doesn't provide what you just asked for. It provides the 24 IDC general funds, etc., not the 23.
Thank you, Mr. Vidal. I believe the indirect cost for fiscal year 2023 is also in the bin.
This is 24.
Mr. Vidal, could we also have the documentation requested by our next, or as soon as possible, whether it's today or
Okay.
when the committee meets again?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vidal. Committee members, I'm due third call for any questions on the consent agenda. I hear none. We're gonna go to a roll call vote on today's consent agenda. Ms. Nelson, can you help us with the roll call vote?
Yes, Madam Chair, we'll call vote on the agenda, consent agenda. Mark, Ashford, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Mark, Ashford, the screening, Honorable Norman, you begin, how do you vote?
Good.
Honorable Norman, being red, I'm the top figure, how do you vote?
Great.
Thank you, Honorable top figure, the screening, Honorable, second, how do you vote?
Vote green,
Thank you, second, votes green, honorable.
voted against budget.
Delegate Cardi votes red
Thank you.
against the consent.
Honorable member Smith, body votes red. Madam Chair.
You didn't even have the OMB report.
Madam Chair.
Don't be scared of across the street. Come on, budget and finance.
Thank you, Ms. Nelson, for taking today's roll call vote on, and with that, colleagues, the consent agenda passes. We're gonna go on to
I see how you could do that with the freelance.
this, the retirement office is on their way. We're gonna go on to item C, which is legislation. 183, which is the office of the controller. Turn the gavel over to my administrator.
Yeah.
Gets to be on
About that, I thought it was. Yeah.
Who sponsored it? Auto Story.
Oh.
And who sponsored it is Auto Story. Sponsored his offers. That's all you do. Like Autobike. I was listening to Arden Spear. He even wants to get his LBA. He's like on the birthday, Jim and Ricky. So that's why I'm trying to do it.
Legislation to the record. What, just read the heading.
Okay, this is the Region Code Standing Committee Resolution assigned to Budget and Finance Committee. 25th nomination count, first year 2023, introduced by Dean Parrish and co-sponsored by Daniel Simpson. Yeah. Tracking number 0183-23 and action relating to the Budget and Finance Committee approving and recommending Budget and Finance Committee the fiscal year 2024 budget for the nomination office of the controller and related matters to be included in the nominations FY 2024 comprehensive budget. And this has been read into the record. The attachments are exhibits A through E.
Any members, do we have a motion to consider the legislation?
Motion
A motion, Delegate Crowdy, do we have a second?
for.
Is this legislation out? It's not ready. Second.
Sorry, legislature. We have a motion from Delegate Crowdy and a second from Delegate Damon. Committee members, do you have questions or discussion on the legislation?
I just have on my agenda, it says the next legislation is retirement plan.
Yeah, they couldn't look at. Gary said that they were on their way over here, and so
Okay.
we went on to the control room.
Did you call for them? Like, did you do like the three?
Well,
No, like you as vice chair.
no, I did not go.
Okay,
Would you like?
would you just, I'm flexible, but just, you're gonna move them to the end of the agenda? Or when they show up?
I think we should just come back to them after this is completed.
Okay. I make little notes on my agenda.
Okay, but yes, I do not do it through. Follow the chair said there. We have a question from Delegate Damon and I believe from Delegate Crowdy as well.
No.
No, never mind, not from Delegate Crowdy. You just want to do the amendment?
Yeah, that's all good, but.
Committee members, there's an amendment that the committee's been apprised of. Do we want a presentation from the sponsor and her agents?
I'd like a presentation, please.
Okay. Chair Parrish? You have 3 hours.
Vice Chair Slater and the members of the Budget
serious.
Committee, thank you for sharing time this afternoon as we consider legislature, as you all consider legislation 018323. Again, this is the Office of the Controller budget that was prepared for the committee as the oversight. And today with me, I have the interim controller, Mr. Sean McCabe, and also our famous Mr. Robert Willie, also with us today. So they're going to help with this presentation. Again, there did an amendment to for the committee to consider. So I'm going to get us to it, and I'm going to the time over to our interim controller, Mr. Sean McCabe.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, Parrish, and members of the committee. Thank you for having us to present our proposed 2023, this year 2023-24 this budget. We have all of our exhibits, which we just passed out. I will go through them with you all and entertain questions as well, but also lean on Robert Willie when detailed questions are needed. I do want to acknowledge Mr. Willie and Mr. Lydell Davis. Davis is also here. You know, we always talk about how our young people need to come back and step up to the plate for our people, and certainly want to acknowledge Mr. Davis for his work on helping us put this together, because he was a pretty integral part in my busy schedule and Robert's busy schedule. He really stepped up to help put this together. So I want to thank the committee and certainly work on. With that, we can move to the first items in the booklet, which are basically our summary of all of the detailed budgets which are behind it. The first 4 are basic, are really what we refer to the big 4. That's our general fund and indirect cost budgets. We can go through those in detail, and everything after that is basically the proprietary fund and permanent fund proceeds budget. So we can go through those in as much detail as the committee wants as well, but typically those are separate from the general fund and our indirect cost allocation. So we'll start with purchasing here in a second. From the what's in front of you, our proposed purchasing budget, we'll go through details at 511,000, which is down from the 2023 general fund budget of 684. Our property management budget is at 580, proposed at 588 for 2024 was at 662,457.23. The Office of the Controller's proposed budget is at 6.224 million. It was at 6.16 in 2023. We'll give you an idea of that
Vice Chair,
differences.
I apologize, interim controller. We should have heard from OMB first, according to the rules.
It's true.
Because
I asked for a presentation from the sponsor. That's why we went into that. But you would what do you want to hear from OMB? Yes.
Yeah, you sponsored the rules, so just enforce it.
Sure. Co-sponsor. Mr. Bial, are you ready to present?
You may get an adjournment.
Chair committee members, as a chairman. We don't have the report. That we provided or just handed. It was being developed when I left.
Okay.
During the noon hour, but. So. So I don't have it in hand, unfortunately.
Thank you, Mr. Bial.
I'd like to make a motion to recess until tomorrow morning. To go and start over again.
Okay. You say start over again, what do you mean?
Basically, we start over at 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Just for continue the meeting,
Continue the meeting tomorrow.
you don't want to start you don't want to adopt a new agenda, right?
It seems like I'm already showing up. Motion to recess.
Yeah, before I recognize the motion, I just want to go to rule 6 of the special budget meetings. After budget legislation is motioned, OMB shall present a simple budget summary for each program's budget before the sponsored legislation starts their presentation. A staff member of OMB shall be available at each committee budget meeting, either virtually or in person, to answer relevant questions and to clarify issues during the discussion. So, Mr. Bial, you'll have the OOC as well as retirement and insurance services, OMB reports for tomorrow.
Yes, sir. This is my opinion.
Okay. Yeah, this is OOC and this is a term. And the only one we didn't have was insurance, which was one. It's 87.
18 million.
180. Okay. So Mr. Bial, yeah, we'll need those before 10 a.m. tomorrow. And committee members, oh, sorry, not well. I think you guys adjourned before it started raining. We should just wait it out now. Okay, for committee members before recess, is there anything else that you would like desire from OOC, OMB? In anticipation of tomorrow's, in anticipation, what time, 9 or 10? No, according to our agenda, we are going to be convening at 9 a.m.
Okay, not good enough for now. The controller for sure, that's fucking good, but.
Okay, committee members, and I have another thing that, we have a motion in a second for the consideration of this report. When we reconvene tomorrow, you could withdraw the motions now, and we could go back to the original schedule of the agenda, which is retirement. Do you want to continue with the OOC, or do you want to go?
Be ready?
Yeah.
Just recess.
It wasn't on your agenda till just.
Okay, but you just said earlier that you'll have it by 9 a.m. tomorrow. So is that right? That still stands? That's why I was proposing. Do you want to just continue? We can continue.
Everybody shows up with the chat.
Hey, David and I were here. I don't know where you guys were.
Well, we're,
Well,
Vice Chair, I'd say continue with this legislation. Could you have a motion and a second? So
Yeah, I just wanted to present, because I know you brought up the issue about them not being.
I just didn't hear you when you,
No, I did, yeah,
I'm trying to read your mind, but I'm 0 and 10.
How many budget finance committee meetings have we had? Committee members, I recognize a motion from Delegate Etheridge and a second from Delegate Begay to recess until tomorrow at 9 a.m. Any discussion? No, I think there's, but hearing none, except for that discussion. Can we go to, well, here, Delegate Damon, how do you vote? For recessing.
Oh, I will agree.
Delegate Crotty? Delegate Etheridge? Delegate Begay? Chair Parrish? You have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Who wants to hold a newspaper? Or recess until 9 AM tomorrow. We'll resume with legislation 183-23. Then we'll go back to 182.
We prayed for this, so.
Yeah.
Go in there and bless yourself, purify yourself,
What was?
purify yourself. Whatever you bring from 400.